Geek Out!
Hey, welcome to another episode of Reminiscent Evil. I'm your host, Josh, and in this episode, I will be discussing Resident Evil Damnation with my guest, Fuck Scheduling Conflicts. Now, Damnation is the second computer-generated film to come in the Resident Evil game-wise universe of films. The first, obviously, being Resident Evil Degeneration. And unlike the first one, where story was kind of a hot mess, this one seems to be a little more put together. The opening scenes tell a bit of a history lesson, both real world and pseudo, make-believe to fit into the game world narrative. It starts with telling the tale of how communism was great in the Soviet bloc, starting with Russia, or the Soviet Union back in the day, detailing events that happened with Berlin, especially with the wall going up, and then the wall eventually going down, and then the rest of the Soviet Union afterwards being like, peace out, bitches, we're gonna be our own little sovereign states now. So the state in question in it is entirely make-believe. Doesn't really exist. But there's enough grounded history in it within this short story they tell in the beginning to make you believe that it's an actual place that could exist. And basically the tale is about terrorism, gaining independence from your former Soviet empire, and basically the ideals of how bioterrorism never works for anyone's cause. The story stars Leon Kennedy from, the same game series, also from his same role in Resident Evil Degeneration, and in the game series where he, after the events of the game Resident Evil 4, went to work for the federal government, basically becoming a special agent for the president, specifically to hunt down bioterrorism attacks involving the products left behind by the Umbrella Corporation. He's got his same handler from Resident Evil 6 and Resident Evil Degeneration. The events of this film, though, take place after the events of Resident Evil 6, where, again, working in the same capacity there, witnessed the president of the time falling ill to the effects of bioterrorism, dying, and then being succeeded by the president in this film. Now, when he arrives in the Slavic state, he is immediately told to return home by his handler, basically saying that the U.S. is no longer to investigate this area and basically just let it fall to shit. Jokingly, in the little bit of dialogue Leon has with his handler, where she's pretty much telling him, like, all American citizens as well as embassy staff are being told to evacuate, he jokingly says, well, I guess I'm going to have to misplace my American citizenship for a short while. And just be like, well, fuck the US of A, I'm going to go rogue and solve this shit since, you guys called me out of my vacation time, send me to this despot, fuck you. Along the way of investigating, he is immediately attacked by BOW weapons, more commonly known in the universe as lickers, and soon finds out that they're somewhat not normal. They're kind of like acting sort of like they're under command of someone. He then runs across a part of the freedom fighters that are fighting for independence in this country, because while it has gained independence during the time of breaking away from the Soviet Union, corporations and capitalism move into this sovereign state and decide to prop up their own government, sort of, how capitalism usually works. And so you have freedom fighters trying to fight against the government, and as the story progressed, we soon find out that the freedom fighters were giving the Las Plagas virus, as well as liquors. Now, they're given the Las Plagas virus because they were told that they could control the liquors, sort of use them as weapons in their guerrilla fighting campaign. And as the story goes on, Leon runs across sort of traditional Hollywood style freedom fighters in this sort of situation where they're like, America is evil, they're bad, but god damn it, do we love everything that's made in America, including bioterrorism weapons, it seems. So along the way, we kind of get a lot of back and forth between Leon and the freedom fighters of how, this sort of ideal of freedom fighting is wrong. Bioterrorism never helps anyone. In the end, it does more damage than good. And then on the government side, because, this is a Resident Evil film, Leon can't be the only character that we know. We get a visit from Ada Wong, who we hadn't seen since... game-wise, Resident Evil 2, where Leon and her first cross pass, and Resident Evil 6, where, again, Ada is sort of serving her own purposes, though we don't know what those are or who exactly she's answering to, because in this film, we're led to believe that she's gone to work for the BSAA, which is a United Nations bioterrorism organization created by other members of the UN Security Council to sort of fight the remnants of the Umbrella Corporation's weapons. Now, anyone who knows Ada Wong knows full well that this can't be true. She couldn't have, turned heel from being a bad guy, or serving her own self-interests for the higher good. And then we later do find out that she is, in fact, serving someone else, that she was sent in to cultivate this new form of Las Plagas that has allowed the terrorists to control the liquors. And we soon find out that the government in power has acquired its own bioterrorism weapons in the form of the tyrants. Now, I'm not talking about the traditional long-clawed arm ones. No, I'm talking about the bondage gear style tyrants that usually drop in from out of the sky with full leather biker daddy get-ups, kind of expecting to pull out whips and chains and make you their bitch. Which, as we find out in one of the fight scenes, is quite easy for them to do, where towards the end of the film, Leon and the terrorists have sort of teamed up. Him having injected himself with the Las Plagas virus to control liquors to sort of fight these tyrants. And we get probably one of the better boss battles we've seen in a Resident Evil film / game series, where he is commanding liquors to fight these tyrants. And as the battle progresses, it eventually moves out into a large courtyard, and we get to see a tank go up against these tyrants. And needless to say, it's quite comical. We get basically actions of like a tank trying to run over the tyrant, knocking its head in with its cannon, and eventually go for the almighty headshot of just eviscerating its skull. So basically, as far as story goes, whereas in Resident Evil Degeneration, we go anywhere from the airport where the story begins to an abandoned house of where, in that one, sort of the freedom fighters against the evil corporation to the evil corporation's lair. This one's all contained within this sovereign state. So you don't get massive, distance or time jumps. Cohesively, this story is just much better put together. It's also just a little bit longer than the Resident Evil Degeneration film, so if you didn't mind that one's time, this one's just a, drop in the bucket in comparison. And, yeah, that's about it. Basically, this one's trying to tell a moral story as opposed to just kind of like fill the need of Resident Evil lore. It's very much trying to say that never compromise your morals for what you believe in trying to attain a cause, and that, like I mentioned earlier, bioterrorism never helps anyone. So that's pretty much it. I give it a pretty good review. I'd say I'd give it a 8 out of 10. Yeah. So, this has been another installment of Reminiscent Evil. I was your host, Josh, and I hope to see you guys next time for the next film. Toodles.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a new commentary every Monday. We've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.